Hey, Ken, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to have me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Ken McLoud. I'm the father of three young kids, and we live up in the mountains in New Hampshire. In terms of what I do for work, you've probably noticed that a lot of agency owners realize that AI is changing the game right now, but they struggle with where best to employ it in their agency. So this is where I come in. I help find the best kind of high leverage opportunities for employing AI. And then I build out tools that increase revenue and profit without also increasing headcount.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, AI has been around for a while, but I think more and more people are paying attention to it, realizing that, I think when years ago people were like, it's going to replace my job. And I always look at it as like, no, it's the people that use AI will replace your job if you're kind of that laggard. I kind of look at it as when the internet started being widely used, right? Like people are like, I don't need a website. I don't need to put my stuff on there and that kind of stuff. And I kind of look at it kind of history repeating itself. So I want to start off with, because I think a lot of people struggle with this, where should I implement AI or not implement in my agency?
Yeah, this is kind of the big question, right? So, the most important thing to do is to avoid the solution in search of a problem syndrome, right? Which is really tempting to do. I've unfortunately been involved with a couple of these where it's like the owner or one of the founders goes looking for, we've got to find somewhere where we can use AI, and they see some task that they think is a good fit for AI, based on usually their use with ChatGPT or something like that. And then they go, that's the project. Go build it out. That can be AI-ified. A lot of times without a lot of strategic thought about the project, or without talking to the people actually doing the task day to day. And this is a recipe for winding up with a tool that either isn't that valuable to the business or maybe doesn't get used because it's meeting some resistance from the people who actually do that task every day.
Yeah.
So the real way to look at it is to start from the business side and then find the place to apply AI. So I like to use the theory of constraints here, where you start with thinking, is my agency supply constrained or demand constrained? And you probably know that already off the top of your head. But if you don't, a good rule of thumb is if a fairy godmother came through the door and waved her magic wand and doubled your number of customers today, would that be a good thing? Or would that go, holy crap, something broke?
No.
Right. So if that's a good thing, then really you're demand constrained and you need to generate more demand. If that fairy godmother waving her wand would break something, then you're supply constrained. And that thing that would break is a perfect opportunity for what your project ought to be, because that's telling you right where the bottleneck is in your operations. So if you can loosen up that bottleneck, increase the size of the pipe there, now you can flow more water and therefore money through the pipe.
I like how you broke that out because, yeah, I remember. I mean, you remember kind of the .bomb era, right? Like you put a .com on it, right? And the same thing happening with AI right now,
Yes, a great analogy.
right? And then, I mean, that's how Nate really came up with the AskQuick, right? Because, and for people that don't know Nate or the old agency dad, he was a fractional CFO working with a ton of clients and trying to get them answers. And he came up with the idea of, what if I create this AI CFO? Tell us the story a little bit about that,
Yeah,
because
so
I
this
think
is
she
an
wanted to
interesting
do an
one.
N8N integration,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, no, this is an interesting one. So, like you said, Nate's got a bunch of experience acting as a CFO for marketing agencies. He's actually also a college professor, teaches classes in this kind of financial accounting stuff. And he started trying to build out an N8N automation to connect to his clients' QuickBooks accounts in order to do kind of some of the uh, the kind of number crunching work that he
Yeah, like
typically
what's
does in order
working,
to
what's not
advise
working.
clients. Yep. And that got to the point, as like these N8N projects often do, where it got kind of overly complicated and needed to break out of there. And that's where he started working with me. So what we wound up doing there was building a chatbot-like interface, like you're used to seeing in ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these tools. But there's a couple important differences there. The first one being it's been loaded up with essentially a textbook that Nate has written specifically about how to manage the finances for marketing agencies based on his experience he's had with a bunch of agencies across the world. And then the other thing we've done is we've built tools for that AI to hook into your QuickBooks account so that it's not just giving generic advice about how agencies ought to be managed. It can actually look at your numbers, your revenue and profit and costs and expenses per account, and give you specific advice of, hey, this client's actually losing you money, or perhaps we ought to restructure comp in this way. The financial stuff's over my head, but that's what
Mine too. I remember when Nate came to me, he's like, "Hey, I want to sponsor the podcast for this." And I was like, "Tell me more about it." And then I started looking at the marketing. I was like, "Oh my god, this marketing's horrible." But that's why it works, because he's so good with the numbers. I was like,
no,
"Well, let me kind of rebrand this into AskQuick.ai, and I'll help you with this."
a huge portion of that work was getting like just enough of that financial data out of Nate's head and into mine so that I could wire everything up correctly.
Yeah, it was a good team. So for everyone, go check out AskQuick.ai. But this is not why we jumped on here. So let's talk about two, because now let's say we don't have the capacity, like we're maxed out, right? The business is double, like it would basically take us down. So a lot of people look at tools, and I use tools like N8N and I make.com and Zapier, which everyone knows, which does a really bad job at any AI stuff. How do you separate the difference between doing it there or having someone like yourself custom programming it?
Yeah. So all of those no code, low code tools like N8N and make.com are really cool, powerful tools. The thing is that it's still really a technical skill. Like they like to pitch it as though like anybody who's never touched a computer before can just walk in and build this crazy agent.
Which is horseshit.
Dragging N8N blocks around.
Yeah, because I have a bunch of workflows on N8N, and they keep breaking, and it's annoying the shit out of me. Like I literally want to punch them in the face.
So there is a sweet spot for those kind of workflows, and it's simple tasks. And I mean, I don't mean simple in a technical sense, but like you could write out what it's doing in 1 or 2 sentences, right? The sort of thing like, when this webhook fires, I want to send that email. And maybe that's a feature that's not built into the tool that you're using. Well, you can kind of add a feature like that using a simple N8N or make.com workflow. And that kind of stuff is where it's perfect. Like you don't need a lot of technical skill to make that work. You can get it done really fast. And since that's going to be like 2, maybe 3 nodes in there, that's going to be about as reliable as these things get. The stuff where people wind up shooting themselves in the foot, and it's okay because you usually don't have a huge investment in these things, but where that number of nodes starts growing and it gets more and more complex, and like you're saying, it's breaking constantly, or you're spending hours researching how to try to get it to do this one thing connecting with your email provider. And a lot of times when I see that, I've worked with these systems before, I get super frustrated because I know if I could just write the code, I can do that in like 1 line or 2 lines. This would be over in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's not at all that there's no use for those tools. And basically, if you're sitting there thinking, I think I know how to build this in N8N, I could just do that, then you probably should.
Yeah.
It's where you go like, yeah, I have no clue how to build this out in N8N, or you got to go on a 2-hour long Google and YouTube adventure to figure out how to do it. Then that should start putting your radar up that maybe this is a better solution for custom code.
Yeah, because I've fallen trap to this. Like I'll go on YouTube and I'll see a video, and the video will be like a whole complete sales agent
Yeah.
on
There's like
N8N,
800 nodes in the YouTube
right?
thumbnail.
And this guy that's doing this is probably like 18 years old, and it's just, I'll leave it at that. And he just makes it look so simple, right? It's kind of like when I came up to you with the idea for the agency grader, right? Where it basically, you ask, the grader asks you maybe 5 or 6 questions about your role in the agency as an owner, and then it puts you, compare it to the top 1% of agencies, and then gives you some suggestions based on AI, and gives you a grade. And it's really pretty cool. If you guys want to check it out, go to jasonswank.com/agency grader and you can check that out. But like, walk us through that a little bit of kind of your thinking, because
Yep.
I think that'll help people out as well.
So that's a good example of where it's simple enough what it's doing. Like you can put blocks in N8N in order to make calls out to LLMs and do that sort of thing. But you want to be able to have the flexibility to adjust that prompt, adjust those questions, design the page you want to have the way you want to have the page designed. And I'm sure you could build something like that in N8N, but we've just got so much more fine-grained control. It's like a standard transmission versus an automatic transmission. We've got a lot more fine-grained control over what the engine's doing here.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it a lot easier. I just, where do you think a lot of this AI is actually going on a programming side? Not for getting people ranked in AI, but where do you think this is all going?
So I see kind of the right way to think about this stuff is like we were talking about earlier, giving your team superpowers. I think in the intro you first brought this up. So the most effective way to do this is, rather than thinking about it in terms of, robots taking people's jobs, it's how can I take my current team and grow with that team by giving this team superpowers using tools like this. So you can take all of the monotonous, repetitive work off of their plates and delegate it to a tool like this that maybe just needs to be occasionally supervised. And then you free them up to spend their whole time on their highest value work. And when you're doing it that way, people usually prefer to do the high value work and they'd rather not be doing the monotonous stuff. So rather than having pushback from the team, people are excited to roll out those kind of systems.
Give us a couple other kind of stories about things that you've worked on, because if I think a lot of people are like me, I got to hear something like a use case and be like, oh, okay. Like I can kind of relate.
No, this is super common when I have a first call with people. So one that's probably a good example here is I'm working with an agency out of Australia that's in the medical industry, to not give too many specifics away. And they've got good examples of picking the right project to do, and one where we probably could have done better on picking the project.
Okay.
So the first one where they definitely did it right is they do a lot of content marketing around medical stuff. So there's a lot of long form, highly technical content being written for stuff like emails, blog posts, long form social media and videos. And they also have a repository of what's the right way to say this? A repository of past content, speeches, and this sort of thing, talks that doctors have given in this field. That's kind of their internal knowledge base. So the first project that we did, which was a huge success, was we built them one of these chatbot type interfaces that has access to that huge knowledge base of theirs around this specific medical topic. So now when they're writing marketing emails or writing blog posts, long form scripts, They can go and work with that bot back and forth to pull interesting facts out of the database, stats, studies, this kind of stuff, and help them refine the copy just like you would in ChatGPT, except now it's also got access to their whole database of this kind of proprietary medical stuff that they're working with. In addition to that, they can also upload individual documents into the chat. So if they've got a particular piece of content that they kind of want to emulate, or some new bit of information that isn't in the database yet, they can throw that in.
Nice.
And they've got a pretty big team writing this content and have absolutely loved that tool. That was a big win.
Awesome. Give us another example.
Yep. So the follow-up, I would say, is less of a big win and is one of these examples of a solution in search of a problem. So the owner there was rather enamored with the feature in ChatGPT that lets you organize your chats into folders over on the left sidebar there. And so he wanted this big, grandiose version of that, where you would create a folder structure for all the topics that these people were discussing. There's a lot of very specific medical stuff, and then maybe some more folders to cover specific types of content. You know, one for marketing emails, one for long form video scripts, this kind of stuff. And then as each chat evolved, the AI would look at it and drop it into this nested folder structure in the correct place. You know, and it's not just one level of categories. It's like a file system in a computer. You can have subfolders, subfolders, and subfolders. So you're starting to see how complicated and intricate the system got. And so then his thinking is, if you want to find a previous chat with some information on topic XYZ, you could just drill down folder X, folder Y, folder Z, and go see the chats like that. So this system has been rolled out for over a month now. And I recently went in there to change something else and looked at the folder system, and nobody on the team, including the owner, has made any folders in there yet.
Really?
The test setup worked, but then we cleared out the test setup. And when I talked to them about it, it was like, yeah, well, it generates new responses really quick. So if you want to know about topic XYZ, just hit new chat topic XYZ and it gives you what you're looking for. So like, why it's not worth spending the time categorizing everything in this intricate folder structure. So it's a great example of had a solution in mind, went looking for a problem for it versus attacking. You know, if we would have gone and talked to the copywriters, not one of them would have said something like, what I really need is organization for these chats.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's kind of what I saw in the very beginning as well, right? Like people are like, I got to use it, especially if I'm trying to build, my business up and sell it one day. Like if I can put tech to it or AI to it, it's going to increase my multiple.
Yeah, we'll trick them into thinking it's a software company.
Yeah, no, it's not. So, is there any other examples that you think would be good for the audience to listen in? Be like, maybe get some ideas.
Yeah, so there's another great one. I'm seeing this overall trend, and actually your agency survey here is another good example of this, where it's the sort of thing that a few years ago we might have done with code. You know, we might have said if they gave this sequence of answers, then show them this report. If they gave that sequence of answers, show them that report. You know, you can imagine hard coding out a bunch of if statements to do that. And there's a lot of business logic like that, obviously. But now there's a lot of situations where we can replace that big chunk of nasty code with an AI prompt. And there's a trade-off here because the AI prompt is certainly less reliable than
you can't control it.
Then statements.
Yeah.
We don't want to do something like this when we're like moving bank account statements around. But if it's a situation where it's low risk enough that we can do that, this means that if it's the sort of thing that's going to change regularly, then it can be changed without having to employ a developer, because you don't need to go in and change code. You just change the prompt as though there was a human teammate doing this, and you're writing them an email to, hey, we used to do XYZ, now let's do it ABC, and just in English, and then the system starts behaving that way.
Yeah.
So there's another group that I worked with down in Tennessee who their play, again, not to get too specific here, it's essentially an arbitrage play where they get a high volume of deals coming through, and they know certain ones will be profitable for them to grab and others won't be. And we're on the order of like hundreds a day. So previously they had people sitting there looking at these deals coming through and trying to grab the ones that looked like they were going to be profitable. And that was working okay. But this is the sort of thing where speed to lead matters. And if you don't move on it quick enough, the opportunity's gone.
Yeah.
So essentially they were having a lot of profitable opportunities fall off the side of the plate because that human system wasn't reacting to them fast enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got it. Speed is everything.
Yeah.
And also, when we were coming up with Agency Grader, my thing was, and I think this is for a lot of agencies and probably a lot of businesses that agencies are helping out. No one wants to jump into a course anymore. No one wants to watch a video of someone talking for 40 minutes with like 5 minutes of actual good content, if that. And so when I came to you with the Agency Grader, I was like, look, here are the most important questions. And that's what I really liked that you did was you credited dynamically so I can change the questions later on. I said, here are the questions and here are kind of the different options I want them to select from. And then let's put this in an OpenA model based on like our methodology of the top 1% of agency owners and give them a grade, but then also give them what they need to go do. And having that as an opt-in, and it goes back to, what HubSpot did many years ago with the website grader. How popular was that? That was huge.
Yeah, definitely. That whole, the idea, like none of us even Google search anymore, right? Practically. I saw a stat the other day that worldwide Google traffic was down 40%. It's because I know I'm going to have to click through 3 or 4 listicles and get through somebody's blog post before I get the answer that I want. And if you just go to a good AI and phrase your question decently, you'll get the answer you're looking for in a single sentence.
Yeah. I literally had this happen this morning. My wife was like, the hot water's not working. So I went out to the water heater, took a picture of it, said, what's going on with this? It said, oh, is the pilot light on, not on? It walked me through everything rather than going to someone's stupid blog article that an agency wrote for this, whatever, to call them. It literally skipped the steps. And I got
or a 45-minute long YouTube video.
Yes, I know. Those drive me crazy, right? But awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Ken. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Let me think about that for a second. No, I think we got through all the big topics on my hit list there.
Cool. Awesome. Well, if people want to chat with you, where can they reach you?
Yeah, the right place to get at me is laconictech.com/agency.
Spell that out for us slowly for those dyslexic people listening.
Yeah, it's not a very podcast friendly URL. So that's LACONICTECH.com/agency.
Awesome. Well, everyone, I highly recommend Ken. He does amazing work. He helped us build the AskQuick, which is amazing. And then the Agency Grader, which we'll have all links to Ken's website to go check it out, especially for dyslexic people like me. And then you can check out his handiwork on all the other stuff that we have. So thanks so much, Ken, for coming on the show. And until next time, have a swank day.
I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.